Hey y'all, I'm Kassidy, they, them, and I'm the creator of Galactic Flow. So today, for this video, I'm kind of just spitballing, is what I'll say. I watched a video of another creator. I'll link it below or in the video, of kind of how they got monetized. But as I was watching the video, the creator really made a good point of kind of how you're creating content and just showing up as your authentic self. And for me in this video, I kind of just want to talk a little bit about me, share about myself a little bit to kind of reintroduce myself, but bring y'all on the journey with me because I know this is something new that I'm starting. I'm a little anxious. I'm also excited, a little nervous just with kind of doing this whole process because photography is my main medium, and videography, as much as I love it, absolutely amazing, it has not been something I've leaned into. And kind of learning that you can genuinely create videos on your phone and share that with the world and people can connect with you is really cool to me. So that's a barrier for me that I've been able to just break down and realize if I want to create content and share with people, I truly can. And having the best equipment or equipment that I think aligns with what the vibe or feeling I want to have is not something I need at the beginning. So starting this to kind of just bring y'all along with me and just share a little bit about me and also know that we're in this together. I'm a very introvert Zennial girly, if you want to say. So just hang in here with me. Don't mind my awkward hand holding of a ruler with my mic. I'm trying to not move my hands as much, and I'm still doing it anyways. Um, but hopefully, it'll remind me to breathe and just speak as myself. So excited to just talk with y'all and share a little bit about myself. So, all right. I like to do a little dance before I start recording because it gets the nerves out, but also kind of makes me just a little happy and excited. So if you see any of that in my videos, just know I'm having a good time. Um, anyways, to kind of share a little bit about myself, I am 26. I have to remember what year it is. It's 2025. And I am a Zennial. I like to say Zennial because I feel like 98 babies that cusp right before 2000s and sharing that space with millennials, being a Gen Z, but being in that weird space of Gen Z where I'm too old apparently in Gen Z, but I'm too young to be in the millennial generation, which is fine. I'm happy to be in my little Gen Z Zennial section of the generations because it's a very unique blend. But 26, returning 27 this year. I am a photographer and I also create digital art. I'm kind of in this space of I haven't been creating art a lot recently, and that's been due to life and work. And I know some folks say, well, that's an excuse. And I'm like, I can hear you on that, but also in the sense of these last four, and we'll be five this year, years have been very difficult, but a lot of lessons learned. Moving across the country from the East Coast to Washington during the pandemic by myself, that was a journey in and of itself. Finding my first corporate job as an HR intern and also working as a FedEx to kind of, make the bills, pay the bills, make things happen and shake. That was a journey. And then just being in the HR space, because for me, I really wanted to pursue my photography dream and start my own photography business. But at the time, it didn't seem possible. And then COVID happened and kind of life, and that's okay. But leaning into HR, I really enjoy learning. Learning has always been something I've loved to do and will continue to do for the rest of my life. And that's kind of what led me into HR of just how expansive it can be. And I know everyone's like, human resources, you're the bad people. No, it's in the sense of HR is for the business first, but the approach that has been evolving over these last, I would say, 5 or so years. HR is becoming human first, having that human first approach where it is for the business, but it's also about putting the person first. And regardless of a business doing the work that they're trying to achieve, it wouldn't happen without people. So that's kind of that space of human resources, human and then resources. Um, but I fell in love with recruiting at first. I still love recruiting, but I learned as a introvert, talking all the time is not my favorite thing to do. And then leaned into DEI, onboarding, development, retention in that space. And that's kind of where I've landed within, but also learning I really enjoy black and white work where it's very clean, clear cut on what things are. And it makes it easier when gray areas, gray areas come up for you to just figure out, okay, well, this is what we've done before. Let's figure the situation out now. So anyways, don't want to talk about HR too much, but that's kind of the space I've been in these last 4 years. Dedicating time, taking trainings, getting certifications, being in that space of just learning and growing my bounded rationale because it's important to me. And if I'm in this space, I want to continue to grow for myself, for my experience, and also for my career. But this last year, things kind of took a hard pause. I would say mental health was really low, still a little low now, and that's okay. But I read the book Ikigai, and I kind of was like, "What the heck am I doing with my life?" Truly, creating art truly is what makes me happy, and that is what brings me joy and purpose every time I take a photo, especially on my like actual camera, not just my phone, but like taking photos with my camera. It always reminds me that in this moment of life, the moments we have will continue to move forward and it'll be in the past. Like even me recording this now, when I post this, it'll already be in the past and it will be in the future or present, however that makes sense. But that's a moment that I captured for us to remember collectively. And I know for me, when I take photography, my goodness, it's still morning time over here, so I'm waking up. Um, but when I take photos, especially sessions for other people, or if I'm creating my own art, I always remember that day, the session, how it went, how I felt, how the person felt, how I was feeling creating that art. Just that is something that truly makes me happy, and I cannot let that go. So I'm in that space of taking time to really rediscover my love for photography, but also art as a whole, digital art. I fell in love with digital art as well. That was something where I was like, I can use the photos I take and create more art from that. And that's kind of where I'm in this space now of also taking my experience from college where I got a BA, got a had my I got my major was photography and then my minor was entrepreneurship. So I wanted to find a way to basically blend the two. Have a photography business and be an entrepreneur in that sense of if I want to create art and have that be my full-time life career, or at least feeling as if the work I'm doing, I never work a day in my life, I wanted to blend them together. So that's where entrepreneurship comes in for me with my art. And I wasn't, even in undergrad, it was difficult to get my professors to understand what I was trying to do. And it is what it is. I know I'm rambling. I'm gonna get to a point, I promise. But in a sense, photography, entrepreneurship, digital art, I wanted to find a way now to blend that to find more joy and more purpose in my life while also reconnecting with my own authentic self. For me, as a queer person, being non binary, gender fluid, gender non conforming, being Black, having that intersection of different identities is very important for me to kind of find spaces where I can show up as myself authentically. That's where I'm at in life right now. And for me, it's been difficult, especially in HR. If I'm not the only person of color, I'm probably one out of like 10, or the number's probably bigger than that. But it's typically very blatantly clear that I'm the only person of color, or if I'm with other people of color where there's more of us in a room, I'm typically the only queer person. Now, which has definitely been a struggle. So for me, as someone who has had difficulty kind of being social, networking, moving from the East Coast to the West Coast, trying to network in an authentic way, but also having a low social battery and trying to find resources. Doing all these things has been overwhelming, but a learning experience that I'm taking with me. So for me on this journey of starting Galactic Flow is kind of truly rediscovering passion and purpose of what do I want to be doing with my life? How can I show up for myself and how can I show up for others? Because we're in this life, this world together. And I really want to find more community. I want to make more spaces for folks to be able to show up as themselves. I also want to learn and grow together. It's a process. I mean, I wouldn't say process. It's just an experience of being alive and just living. And I want to live more in that. I want to lean more into that because working every day, 8 to 5, 5 days a week, where I'm not finding joy in the work I'm doing anymore, is not going to cut it. Truly, I'm not sure I would be able to continue to move forward in my career if I'm not finding joy in what I'm doing. So for me, this is a journey truly of rediscovering, of learning, of unlearning, of showing up authentically as myself, making space for myself, making space for others. And as I've continued to navigate the world, especially in the climate we're in, being Black, being queer, it's a space of I want to make sure I can show up as myself authentically, but I also want to make sure I'm representing the communities I am within, but also the other ones I want to uplift and support. That I'm doing it in a way that's authentic and feels real. Um, and that's scary. Like straight up, I have imposter syndrome as an artist. There are times where I'm just like, oh, I don't know, man. It's been a while, but it's just like now you've done this, you got this, and it's okay. Everything isn't gonna be perfect, but also being Black, being queer, there's things that I haven't learned and that I'm still going to learn and be able to advocate for and stand up for and lean into being uncomfortable. I've been saying a lot recently, leading with curiosity. There are a lot of things we don't know, and that's okay. That is 100% okay, but it's being able to say, hey, I don't know, and just being accountable, being transparent, and that's okay as long as you take the steps to do better after that action. That's for me, or it's kind of just like, well, I don't know, what can I do to learn and do better going forward so I can show up for others and myself. So it's a journey. It's a long journey, and I'm truly really excited. I'm nervous, but I want to kind of just share with you all like I'm starting this journey. So my first videos are probably gonna be a little rough. That's okay. But I truly care about the work that I'm doing. And I want everyone I connects with me to know that I care. You matter, you're important. And no matter how big, small you feel the actions we take or do, you matter. And every action we take, regardless of how small it is, it's important. So I want to find ways where I can show up for myself, show up for others. I know I'm sounding like a soapbox, but it's just reinforcing that space of we're in this together. We got this. one day at a time. That's how we're moving right now, one day at a time, one good thing a day. And if there's a lot of bad things, there's one good thing that happened out of the day. Um, so yeah, I'm just really excited to kind of start this journey, share more with you all, and kind of just show up as my authentic self because I am nervous. I am introverted, and trying to just, like I said, find community, create spaces where folks can show up as themselves authentically, learn together, and grow together. That's kind of where I want to go, but also just rediscovering my passion for joy, for purpose, for creating, and sharing my journey with y'all. Like, I just started to use a new design software to do digital art, and man, I am rough. I'm just like, man, okay. But that's a part of the journey of just rediscovering joy in like the little things and just creating and kind of having these new ideas. Like, even for me right now, I have an idea of kind of creating characters and how they can align with where I've been on my journey and how other folks can potentially connect with them. But that's going to be like a year-long journey. Um, because I gotta practice redrawing again, and that's gonna take some time, and that's okay. So I'm really excited and just wanted to kind of share and talk with y'all a little bit, just in like a neutral, chill setting. Because I'm sure you'll notice I sit on the floor a lot. I sit in a chair all day, so I try to move around or be in different spaces when I can be, so I'm not just sitting in a chair all day. Um, so yeah, thanks for listening, and I'm sure I'll talk more a little bit about me. All right. So for this part, I'm just gonna share, I guess, just like a few fun facts about myself. I always struggle when they ask, "What are fun facts about yourself?" for like icebreaker questions, and I'm like, man, what do I do that I can talk about at work that's work appropriate, or that I care to share? Anyways, or at least I would say care to share. A lot of the times, the spaces I'm in, I'm usually one of the youngest people in the room. So a lot of the things I like or do currently, not everyone does, and that's totally fine. Or there are things where I'm like, oh, yay, the youngster aligns. Um, But anyways, some fun facts about myself. So I'm a military child. I've traveled my entire life. I can say that up till now. I've lived on the East Coast for most of my life. I claim Alabama. That's where my parents are from. I went to the University of Alabama. Roll Tide. I know, but I love me some football. So say what you will. Um, let's see. I have two siblings and I have adorable nephews. Let's see. Currently in Seattle, Washington. I absolutely love it here. I don't want to leave. The only place right now, as of 2025, that I would like to go to is Japan. But that'll be a future goal that I will achieve in the next 4 years of going to Japan. Um, let's see what else. I absolutely love music. That is something I typically am spending most of my time listening to. If I'm not listening to music, I am watching anime. I love anime. I am currently self learning Japanese. I'm realizing I need to find a local study group to learn with because I don't have anyone to talk in Japanese with. I'm not going to retain it. For me, I'm a very, let's say, I'm a visual learner, so I can input and learn a lot. And the way I take a lot of notes and process and learn things, that's great. But for learning a language, I need someone to talk with. I need people to talk with to keep learning and making sure it stays in my brain. So that's a goal of mine. And like I said, I will be going to Japan in the future. I just finding anime has truly brought me a lot of joy in a way where I'm just like, oh man, I wish I would have found this when I was younger, but I'm also okay that I found it in my 20s because now I get to have this for the rest of my life. Especially as I start to buy manga, but I want to buy manga in Japanese. So it's just that repetitiveness of learning the language, reading the language, speaking the language, so it stays and it sticks in my brain. Um, and then what else is there? Um, I roller skate. I'm not the best, but that's okay. It's not what it's about. It's about having a good time. Um, and then I'm trying to think if there's like anything else. I mean, I do photography, restarting digital art again, being an entrepreneur. I really love learning. So I'm in that space of kind of going through my old notes and kind of learning from new entrepreneurs, people of color, trying to find more queer entrepreneurs in that space, and as well as DEI. I know everyone's like DEI, da, 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 da. Hey now, it's important, and it's really good to understand what it means. Like for me, on my journey of self discovery, of kind of from being cis to being queer, it's important to understand what those words mean and kind of what it represents because we attach meaning to words, we attach meaning to things. So for me, as I learn things, you got to go back to the basics, like understanding what gender is, gender expression, sex. What does entrepreneurship mean? What does sexuality mean? Like, what does diversity, equity, and inclusion mean? Or like learning there's equality and equity and learning those are different, kind of in those spaces of breaking things down and what it means for me because I know as a collective, we have collective understanding, but also understanding that what it means to you is also important. I know everyone can kind of think about gender differently, expression differently, and that's a beautiful, wonderful thing. And that's something that brings me joy that I like to kind of get lost in. And then thinking about DEI, and that's also why I think I was drawn to it, but also, person of color, we got to stand up, gotta be educated. But being in that space of just understanding of like, if we're gonna use these words, we gotta use them correctly and educate and make sure we're uplifting and not trying to tear anyone down. It's like to make more spaces, we have to understand the spaces that we currently navigate in and how they're keeping us out. Um, and how we can make them more equitable, making them more diverse and inclusive. And just my little tidbit, you can't have DEI, well, DEIB, B's for the belonging, without either one of them. Inclusion isn't going to work without diversity. Diversity isn't going to work without equity. And belonging isn't going to work without any of them. They all work interconnectedly. So it's very important for them to just flow. So I'm going to hop off that soapbox. But I really just enjoy learning about things and just being in that space of, all right, what does this mean? Let's break it down. And then what does it mean to me? How does it apply to me? And being able to understand that significance. So yeah, I think that might be it. I mean, I love chocolate. Um, yeah, I think this is probably why when they ask me like fun facts, I'm like, man, I don't know if I have anything that interesting to talk about besides I love anime, I love listening to music, I like reading, roller skating, and learning things. So those are a few, I guess, fun facts about myself. I'm sure I'll share more down the line, but just a little bit about myself. And like I said, thanks for listening, and I'm super excited to just start and continue this journey with y'all. So